part of it that you have to learn as you go. And the biggest, like I said, the best thing I always told my apprentices was keep your eyes and ears open. You can learn something from everybody, even if it's the wrong way to do something.
Yep.
You know, if they're doing something stupid and you see them cost the contractor money or get hurt, somebody hurt or themselves hurt, then you know not to do that. But you can always learn something from somebody. So after acquiring these skills, 7 years, okay, lots of our contractors, as far as the electrical side, came through the apprenticeship, then started their own companies. Some of them, one of the guys I worked with, he's now the president of one of the biggest companies in Dayton. He will run anywhere from 100 to 250 men. And he was an apprentice, worked in the trade, became a journeyman for that contractor, then became a foreman for that contractor, then became a project manager for that contractor, and then eventually bought the company.
All right.
So, the possibilities is there for you to move up into this. Apprenticeships first developed in the later Middle Ages in Europe. They were supervised by what we call craft guilds and local governments. Actually, like in England, they still have guilds, and you can be in a guild. If Mr. Reynolds gets in a guild of, say, being an electrician, he goes to a school where not only is it your craft school, it's your high school, it's your public education school, it's everything, and you complete it. So it's a little different over there. They were organized by groups of master craftsmen who defined the terms of apprentices indenture. Now, like every apprenticeship that you're going to apply for is going to have an indenture agreement. And it's what you sign that you agree to, and it's what the JATC or your apprenticeship council agrees to also. So both sets, both people agree that they're going to follow these rules and regulations. You know, whether you showing up for work and them providing you with the education and the tools to learn the job. Okay, guilds kept wages high by limiting the number of apprentices and also enforced quality standards. What do you think they mean by that?
Yeah, it made it so it was a bit harder to become an apprentice, but by doing so they ensured higher quality of apprentices, which meant they could actually say like, hey, these guys are skilled more so than your non-guild members, so you should pay them more.
Exactly. But it also had an effect of when you're not taking people in who want to be in, chances are they're going to try to find a way to be in that trade, whether it be in a guild, a union, or in a non-union sector.
So what's the difference between guild and union?
Basically just a different word,
right.
Different language. You still have guilds, like, I don't know if you've ever watched TV in the fall or wintertime, they have what they call the SAG Awards. Mm-hmm. That's the Screen Actors Guild. Mm-hmm. And basically it's the Screen Actors Union. But it's just a little different terminology. Like I said, that got brought over from Europe to America.
Boy, thank you.
And you have to remember, in this country at one time, a union was more or less wrapped in the same blanket as communism and socialism and stuff like that. Mm. So to some people, it was a bad word. So others still went by guild because that didn't have that connotation.
For sure.
By the 1830s, social technology, political change began to transform the artisan system, and in the process, workers' independence and social status. Now, what do you think that meant?
New technologies came in, so the handcraft skills started to change.
Right. There was a need there again. The need was for those skilled people. So it began, it used to be, it might be just one person in a town, maybe, might be the only carpenter in the town, you know. But that technology started changing, and also the political part of it. And in the process, workers independent. Well, if you was the only guy in town that did this work, everybody was coming to you. So you set your prices. You worked when you wanted to. So you had the hands up on that. But then things started changing. Changes included highways, canals, railroads, the shift from local markets to regional, national markets, and the transition from hand tools to water-powered factories. Okay, there you had like the paper mills on the East Coast where they built by the rivers and stuff. Now you had the big wheels that turn the belts, that turn the grinder for the corn mill, or turn the saw blades and stuff for the saw mills and stuff. And it got to now it's where you don't have I-70 or 75 for people around from Cincinnati. You didn't have that before. You had, you know, Mr. Reynolds or Mr. Dow, you guys was in a town and you were it. But now with a highway system, canals, railroads, you had people who could come from Cincinnati into town and compete with you. Any questions on that or any comments? You understand how that worked out? How the highway systems, even canals, back when they had like the Erie Canal here in Ohio, railroads. Can you understand how that affected labor and your part of being a tradesman?
Yeah, because if somebody who could do the work better than you lived a little bit further, they could get to where you are to take your work, or vice versa.
Right. That's correct. So at that point, then what happened is owners, contractors started they subdivided the work. They said, well, Mr. Dow is a skilled carpenter. We don't need him to carry the wood from point A to point B. We'll hire somebody cheaper to carry the wood over for him. Okay, so at that point, then what happens? Then you're starting to cut wages. If Mr. Dow said, no, I'm still the carpenter, that's my work, I'm carrying that wood over. You know, now he has to compete with somebody.
I got a load of wood, I might as well carry it, right?
There you go. But and this mostly happened in skilled workers or unskilled laborers. A lot of you saw that, or we saw it in bigger cities, New York, Philadelphia, Boston, especially under some of the trial trades where you had hod carriers or laborers and stuff. With the rise of steel frame skyscrapers, innovations like high-speed elevators, electric motors, and steam heating systems, skilled workers gained power in construction industry. Okay, so how did we gain the power in the construction industries? Because of this.
The industrial age.
Industrial age.
Like when tools and the technology of the tools change.
Right. Remember what we talked about just the slide previous, the unskilled labor? The unskilled labor ain't going to do that work. Right? You don't want some guy that picked up a Time Life book wiring your house, right? You want somebody who knows what they're doing.
Or YouTube.
Right, or YouTube. You know, Kaboom Electric pulls up to your house to wire it here sometimes. Maybe not.
Kaboom Electric. That better be his last name.
You don't want a doctor saying, all right, let me watch this video on how to
right, exactly. Okay, so what happened here is these different skill levels moved up. You know, you had to know more. You know, maybe before when you was doing a house, you just had to know how to put an electric or a light up and maybe an outlet. There's a lot of houses still in Dayton, older houses that still have like a 30 amp service system. You know, but that's the way it was then. Well, somebody had to know how to do that. But then when like NCR built their buildings, they had to bring up their skill levels in order to wire those buildings. So the skill levels of the different trades, elevator mechanics, electric motors for the electrical, steam heating, plumbing, pipe fitting, all that work started demanding better and higher skilled tradespeople. Steel buildings required better measurements, higher skill, better craftsmanship. Makes sense, doesn't it? You don't want to be get up to, you know, the arch in St. Louis, and they started each way and be a foot off. That's one of them oh shit moments. You know, somebody better know what they're doing. Or, you know, we missed the bridge by this much. Or the English Channel, when you say, well, we're starting in France, we're starting in England, we'll meet in the middle, and you say, oh, we missed it by that much. Not a good thing.
I was just bending it a little bit, try to line it up.
Can't bend that tunnel. So, you know, that's going to require, you know, you just went through like the math and stuff. That's what some of that stuff does. Of course, a lot of it's, you know, computerized and all that now. GPS, all global positioning satellites, but you still have to know how to do that. As an electrician, we would have to get out and do measurements on like grade, so that we know that if we put a duct bank of 300 conduits in on a project, that guy with that backhoe or that shovel is going to come in and dig them up. We want to know exactly where we're at. We can mark it on a print, and then if they hit it, shame on them. But that's the stuff we have to know.
That would be me if I was the so that's the thing that they would know when they're digging.
Right, right. You always have, anytime you dig, you always have somebody come out and cite the right. Well, they'll come out and it's called oops, and they'll come out and mark anything. You're supposed to even call them when you're digging in your backyard.
That's the white and the orange fluorescent paint. I know what you're gonna be sitting on not even on the sticks, like on the sidewalk and on the grass. When you see them,
that's where they're
like
located
or whatever. That's what those for.
That's to tell you, and they don't have to be exact. They're within 3 foot either way of their mark. Okay. There's one mark that shows you where it's supposedly at within 3 foot either way. Another mark shows you how deep it is.
Okay.
So, but you'll get into that. Now this increased the economic power of the building trades unions because their focus was on workers' skill, training, and performance on the job. So as far as economic power, how do you think that affected it?
Well, when the economy started, you know, booming, there was a bigger need for, you know, more modernized buildings. So with that changing, and I forgot where I was going with this.
That's fine.
I did. I got mid-sentence and had a brain fart.
Hi, David. You need something from me, or? Pardon? Oh, God. This shit get out. All right. So the economic power of the building trades built because now they had skilled power people who built the buildings, built the skyscrapers, built the train tracks, built the highways. They could use that strength by withholding their skills and demand higher wages and benefits. If you have those, you have the power. Okay, so that's how it means that they increase their economic power. If I'm making this kind of money and stuff as a skilled tradesman, I can demand more things. I can demand higher wages.
Right.
Because you already showed the proof.
Right. You got the proof to show that. Can you do it without us? So that's some of the things that was built. Okay, we'll get into that here in a little bit. All right, now, so what I'm going to show you here.
US TVA.
So how many of you have heard of the National Labor Relations Act?
I'm looking it up now.
I have.
I have not. The one I think. What was it called again?
The National Labor Relations Act. Now this has got just different dates on front and back. And these dates are very important. And if you look at your paper, 1935 was National Labor Relations Day. That gave the right to workers to form unions. But what did we learn here previously? They were forming unions in the 1830s and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So why did we need a law to say we had that right in the 30s?
Because companies would basically send people to bust up unions or hell even kill them.
Government, the next section we're going to get into, government matters. So from 1830s, when everything was kosher and good, or kinda, there was strikes and stuff before that. But also, you had government and big business joining together to outlaw unions. People were put in prison. People were beaten to death on picket lines. Workers were replaced. They had the military come in, National Guard, and sometimes regular troops to suppress riot, or not riots. They were pickets, especially in a lot of the mines and stuff. So that was a big thing on that. Take a minute to look through those and see if any of them stick out.
Freedom of information.
By the way, you guys, I just want to introduce this is Dave Bruce. He's an assistant business manager, political coordinator, and special projects for the IBEW, and he was my apprentice.
So sweet.
He's come a long ways from being, I better not say that again. I can say it, DFC again.
Go ahead. I was.
What is it?
DFC, dumb fucking cub. But he's done a hell of a job. Very smart young man. I'm proud of what he's accomplished. And hopefully he'll be moving on up at some point in the IBEW. So
That's
That's
what
good
we
job.
call people in the army.
what's that?
That's what we call people in the army.
Oh, FNG.
Yeah, we call them FNGs. What's that? That means fucking new guy.
Pay attention to Grady. He's one of the best 82s ever had. So.
Appreciate it. Appreciate it.
All right, so you've got these
A lot of
dates.
things.
What other dates stick out in your mind on that?
For me,
1990, or 91, the Civil Rights Act amendment. Like, I remember that on the news. I was young, but I remember that. And the Clean Air Act. I remember the Clean Air Act too.
Mhm. Okay, anything else? All right, well, I'm gonna tell you one. Look at the Fair Labor Standards Act. Anybody even know what that is?
no.
Fair Labor Standard Act. I mean, I could make a guess on what it would be, but
But all of us in here were workers, but we didn't even know what our rights were as a worker in any industry we were in. The Fair Labor Standards Act sets overtime. It sets your 40-hour work week. It sets who's exempt from it. Like waitresses are like at 285,
yeah.
and then they get their tips. Okay, that's all. You know, that's one of my biggest pet peeves right now. Is okay, you send all these kids out from the JVSs and stuff to this work, Teach them their rights.
Yeah.
Teach them what they need to know to keep from getting screwed by employers. Now, they say, oh, employers aren't like that anymore. Bullshit.
Right.
Oh, I can identify there, most definitely like that.
Oh, yeah. It's just different now. Instead of some guy standing out there doing a knock you upside the head if you don't do it, they just find a different way. Now they have an attorney with a briefcase instead of a ball bat, to bust the union. That's some of the stuff that is not taught. You need to learn. I would recommend any kid, parents, sit down with them at some point and say, if you're going to take this temporary job, this is what they can and can't do. Especially in fast food. God, my God, they abuse those kids so bad.
Like they'll forget. Like I remember I was like 16 or 17. I was working out on Arby's, and I've been working like we was busy, so I didn't really care. But then they was like, "Oh, shit! You've been working for 5 hours. Go take a break. Hurry up, go take a break now." And I'm like, "Let me finish this dude's order." Like, not saying it wasn't a big deal to me, but yeah, I wanted a break and I needed a break at that time. But they just made it this huge deal when they figured out I needed a break.
Right.
But earlier, I'm like, it's kind of getting to that 4.5 hour mark, and they were just like,
well, and just like, okay, did you as a 16-year-old, I was 15 actually, washing dishes at a restaurant and doing everything. All right. There was things I wasn't allowed to do. I wasn't allowed to use a meat slicer, but I did.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. You don't know that if somebody don't tell you what your rights and what your job scope is.
Right.
And they don't do that. Right. So we've done different things. Like 1842, the Commonwealth versus Hunt decision frees union from prosecution. They used to prosecute you if you tried to form a union. If Mr. Dow and Mr. Reynolds decided to get together and form a union, you could be arrested, prosecuted, and put in prison.
Wow, that's dirty.
Trying to protect ourselves.
Trying to protect yourself.
Interesting.
It's like one of the biggest things I had as an organizer for the local was trying to tell the non-union electricians, that, oh yeah, you need to come to the union. They said, oh no, my employer treats me good. I said, wait a minute, what's he pay you? I said, well, it doesn't matter. I don't want to pay all them union dues. And I say, okay, what are you paying non-union dues? They said, well, I don't pay non-union dues. I said, yeah, let's take a look at this. Okay, the union pays you $31.40 an hour. Okay, you're making $20.50 an hour. Okay.
Keep that on you, right quick.
All right, let's think. Okay, the union pays $8.50 for my health insurance. What's your company pay? Oh, well, I pay my own. Oh, well, how much is that a week? Oh, $40? Okay. So, okay, there's that. So how about your pension? Do they pay a pension? Oh, no, I got a 401k. He matches me 1.5%.
That's it?
1.5%. Okay, let's go 4.5. How's that? Okay, my contractor pays $10.50 an hour in the 3 different pensions for you.
Wow.
Okay, so I think right now the total package for electrician is like $52 and some change. Okay, and you figure out, like I said, yeah, but I get paid vacation time. I said, okay, let's take that out. I get holiday. Okay, let's take that out. And I'd show them, you're still paying at least minimum I used to find was $15 an hour in non-union dues. And they look at me, I never thought of it like that. I said, how else can you think of it? I said, yeah, they only charge 1 to 2% below what a union contractor charges. So who's putting that money in his pocket? The biggest reason I came into the union in 1981 was working for Ready Electric. And things were kind of tight, you had Reagan coming in and all the trickle down bullshit. And it got to the point, it's like, well, yeah, we can't give you a raise this year. We didn't make any money. I thought, wait a minute. You just had us drive all the way to Michigan to your island up there to help build your garage to put your brand new camper in that will also house your jet skis and your snowmobiles. But you didn't make any money this year. So our profit sharing didn't get anything. Bullshit.
Right.
And we got tired of them. We voted the union. Well, and that's another whole new issue we'll get into.
Yo, I went to the jet ski.
Because
I went to
Yeah.
the jet ski.
That's a felony.
I know.
Well, let me ask you this.
I would have just took the wiring out of his garage, so he couldn't take the jet ski.
As an employer, have you ever seen an employer work? Who does this work?
The employees.
The employees. It's just like the military. Who does the work? The foot soldiers and people, right?
Yeah, the lower enlisted, they do most of the work.
Right. And as a sergeant, you're right in that middle tier, and everything trickles down. It's like the old picture of what we call marriage shop. You got this birdhouse up here, and somebody taking a dump. The bird taking a dump all the way down on everybody down below, and each bird shits a little more on the poor bird on the bottom. That's workers. And they'll offer you things. Well, I'll get. I remember when we was doing the campaign to organize there, the owner stopped me in the parking lot and got in my truck. He said, "Man," he said, "this is why I like you. You do a good job. You keep things clean and all that. And we don't need these outside people." Yeah, we're family. I'll tell you what, if I had family like that, I sure as hell wouldn't be inviting them over Thanksgiving. Okay, so you got all this stuff going on. You got laws against you for forming a union. You had people, saying that how the unions was, they're communists, they're pink, and stuff like that.
Pink, what is that?
Limiting onto communism, red. You wouldn't come out and say you're communist, but you tend to lean that way. Okay, so in 1912, they created the Department of Labor. The actual first Department of Labor guy was a union, mine workers union official. The only other time I think we've had three, this last one that President Biden appointed was only the third time somebody from labor was actually head of the Department of Labor. Otherwise it was business people, which we know they can be honest.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now another big thing was the Davis-Bacon Act. How many knows what Davis-Bacon and prevailing wages? Okay, so what happened there? The federal government started putting money into social programs, road building, dams, all the infrastructure bill. Okay, and Davis-Bacon, and you probably heard President Biden talking about this. What Davis-Bacon does is there is wages set by the unions for like Montgomery County. Okay, if you pulled up the Davis-Bacon rates, you would see every craft union wages and benefits listed there. If I do a job at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, if I do a job for any federal agency, they have to pay those wages.
Is that the minimum?
Davis-Bacon rates.
That is the minimum.
Or
Yes.
the standard? Like this is what they have to
Bacon
pay.
rates.
Nothing more, nothing less.
They can pay, anybody can pay more.
Okay, but that's like
That's the
the
bottom.
basic.
All of our wages, that even in our collective bargaining agreement, are the minimum. If somebody wants to pay a guy $50 an hour, we're not going to bitch about that. We're going to say, good for you. But what the Davis-Bacon Act was, and you'll hear a lot of people on the other side of the fence with the R's by their names, or contractors, they'll say, oh, Davis-Bacon is discriminatory. It's against black workers. It's against Asian workers. And the reason being is what Davis-Bacon said was, if you come up, and this happened in New York, Boston, places where a lot of the unions are strong at this point, and you would have contractors coming from the South bringing low-wage workers doing federal work in the community. They would underbid the local people. So the government says, we're not going to have that. If you're going to come into Boston or you're going to come into Dayton to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, you're not going to come in and pay your people $10 an hour when the average worker is supposed to make $21 an hour. So here's what you have to start paying. Okay. Now, for example, a lot of states have what we call little Davis-Bacon jobs. And what that is that's where the state has basically incorporated the same thing. Ohio is one that still has it. And basically, if you do any work for Ohio, a city, county, municipality, over a certain threshold, they have to pay those prevailing wages. Now, for example, in 1998, our great state of Ohio people under George Voinovich repealed prevailing wage on all K through 12 schools. As a result, a lot of these schools were built with non-union trades. And as a result, just like in the city of Dayton, they found that they were paying people 2 and 3 times to do the same work. Then they would come back to us and say, can you fix it? Like the roof over at Kaiser High School was put on 3 times.
Wow, I'm a Dayton employee, Dayton Public employee.
Yep. If you read some of the schools found out that, oh yeah, this bid was $200,000 cheaper by using these people. Well, then they find out, oh, well, we spent $250,000 just on one craft fixing it. Trotwood Madison High School over there, if you go into their hallways and stairwells, the block work was so bad on it that they paid a union plastering company to come in and plaster all them walls and get them smooth.
Wow.
Because it was that bad.
I'll tell you some more about me being the employee. Everything you're saying, the ceilings, that was so terrible. Like, I worked in there and I worked up a custodian. So I'm looking up downstairs, man, let's put these schools together with dollar store stuff. Because like I said, the ceiling, you see how the water was staining and dripping through from, like I said, these schools had just been built, man. So water was leaking through the ceilings, coming through on the tile, staining the ceilings and all that stuff early.
And the sad thing is, they established a place called the Ohio School Facilities Commission, and they still have it, where they would not, if a school system wanted to pay prevailing wage or wanted to sign a project labor agreement where they would use union crafts, they wouldn't let them do it. They would pull all their funding for that school. And it's still like that. They will not let them sign a project labor agreement and stuff.
Wow, so they don't get what they pay for.
Yep. Okay, so we're up to that. This 1932 North LaGuardia Act, LaGuardia, that was a big act to the point where it outlawed what was happening is if Mr. Reynolds' union goes out on strike, the contractors get an injunction and the courts would make them stop. That's what this LaGuardia Act did away with. It took away the federal injunction in most labor disputes. Then, of course, you had the National Labor Relations Act. You know, just like this 1935 Social Security Act. Without labor, we would not have a Social Security system in this country. But after the Great Depression and the stock market crash, so many people didn't have anything, no pensions, they used that all up. That's why that law was passed. We had the Fair Labor Standards Act, established first minimum wage and a 40-hour work week. But who knows it? What kid knows it? If you ask the kid in a fast food, I don't know. One of the things I always thought was funny on the National Labor Relations Act, when I would go out and talk to people and go, I can't talk to you, they'll get me fired. No, they can't fire you for talking to the union. They would even put in, How many of you have ever worked in a place and they said, do not discuss your wages with your fellow
Yep.
employee?
Pretty much everywhere I done worked, except, you know, active duty.
Right. By law, they cannot do that. It is your right under the National Labor Relations Act to discuss your conditions of employment with your fellow workers. And all it takes is two people to talk. And that's what they call concerted activity. Okay? So like I said, I'm not big on all that paperwork. I'd rather talk like this. If you want more of this, I'm fine with it. If
Yep,
you want
let's
more of
do it.
that, you just let me know.
I got a
Listen,
question. So you have these, I guess, like non-union jobs or whatever, right? So you go away and say, for instance, you do get hired, you get a non-union job and being here working. And then I'm like, oh yeah, man, I came in, they started me off at $14.25. You're like, oh man, well, I came in, they started me off at $16.50.
right.
So now that's
Y'all doing the same job.
That is concerted activity. If they say you tell somebody I'm not fired. Matter of fact, I had an unfair labor practice charge I filed on the contractor because I found it in his damn company policy booklet. A guy brought it to me. And it's right there. Do not discuss your wages with anybody. I turned it over to the labor board and they made him take it out of his thing.
Yeah.
Wow, that's deep.
Because you can't do that. And
Right.
it's your right as a worker to discuss your conditions of employment. So many people do not know what their rights are. Now, we used to do a thing called salting. Anybody know what salting is?
No.
Salting.
Yes.
Saltine or saldine?
Salting. ING.
Boy, I think
Okay, so this is how salting worked. In the 1993s, the IBW started a program called COMMA, which stood for Construction, Organizing, Membership, Education, Training. And part of that program was to go out, get hired by non-union companies and organize them. Okay, so what the National Labor Relations Board says is they can't discriminate against you for being union or non-union, correct?
right.
If they're hiring, what do they hire on? Qualifications, right? Just like what we said? Okay, so if you're a union electrician or a union plumber or pipe fitter, whatever, okay, you've been through an apprenticeship, you've got the training, you got the experience. Okay, so Mr. Dow applies at Joe Blow Electric,
I don't even like where this is going.
okay? Right? And he puts down on his application, I'm a graduate of the IBEW Local A2 Joint Apprenticeship Training Committee. I worked 5 years. Here's my training. Here's my diploma. It's the Department of Labor Certified Apprenticeship Program. You're hiring. I would like this job. Okay? All right. Now, same instance. If Mr. Reynolds applies and the guy says, I'm sorry, we don't hire minorities, he's created a problem, hasn't he? Big
so
problem.
I'm calling you.
Guess what? He just created a problem here
Mm.
too. Same thing. Same thing. It's
So this is about
discriminating.
me. now.
Because it's called, you know why? I'll show you why.
It's about me now.
And I always did this. I made sure I let them copy my journeyman electrician union card. But now I did my homework first. I made sure they were hiring. Okay.
Mm.
So what I would do, I sent Mr. Dow in. I already sent somebody else in. I know they're hired. But this guy doesn't belong to the union. He's a non-union guy who come in and said, I'd like to join a union. I'd say, hey, yeah, I need your help. Go apply over here. Guess what? They hire this guy who's not qualified over Mr. Dow. What does this law here say?
Prohibits injunctions in most labor disputes.
And this one here, National Labor Relations Act says you cannot discriminate against somebody because of their activities, their membership or non-membership in a labor union.
Mm.
Okay, so now I file an NRB charge against Joe Bloom Electric because they didn't hire Mr. Dow.
And what charge?
unfair labor practice. Basically, what I'm saying is they did not hire Mr. Dow because he is a member of the union. Here's his qualifications. He completed an apprenticeship program. Here's all the other training he's got. Here's his work experience. And then I would file that, and guess what? Mr. Dow, if I prove it to the board, gets back pay without lifting a tool. You're subject to back pay for the whole time that job position is working. I applied, I found there was a non-union contractor I worked on for about 3 years trying to I was an asshole, just wouldn't do it. He made the mistake of running ads in the paper. So Mr. Mullins, with 37 years in the trade, went in and applied. I took his little stupid test and was there to try to weed people out.
You were salting. You were salting.
I was salting. I applied. He had to hire me. Okay, so he sends me all the way east of Columbus at National Trails Raceways. Okay, so I go up there and, you know, they're ready for me. About 4 guys on the job, non-union guys. I'll just go in there and do my job. Knock them work out, you know. So then comes lunchtime. I go to my truck, get in the back behind the seat, and I get these picket signs that says, "This contractor pays substandard wages and benefits." That foreman looks at me and says, "You're going to get your ass fired." I said, "No, I'm not." So I'm just eating my sandwich, and I'm walking back and forth on this job. The general contractor's jumping up and down. He's like, "You can't do that." I said, "Yeah, I can. That's my rights. I'm informing the public. It's not a picket. It's a public informational display of your rights. It's saying this contractor does not pay the wages and the benefits for this area." And what is those benefits? That Davis-Bacon rate. That's what you set as your benefits. If they pay below that, and I knew what he made because that's what he was paying me. And these guys couldn't believe it. "You're going to be fired by the end of the day." I said, "Okay." I was looking for a job when I found this one. So I worked it. And then I went out on strike about 2 weeks later.
Oh, so you still had a job at the end of the day?
Oh, yeah. I worked 2 whole weeks there. They couldn't believe it. I did that every day, back and forth.
Just eating your turkey and cheese sandwich.
Yeah. Or PB&J most of the time. But that, you know, that's your rights, and people don't know it. Now, I'll tell you an instance.
So they couldn't fire because they would have fired you. Still would have got paid for the back pay.
As soon as they fired me, I'd filed an unfair labor practice.
Yeah, right.
I was doing my rights because I told the other guys, I said, "You guys should be making this too." Okay, once I do that, when it's more than one, as long as I discuss it with them. Of course, I had the old pocket tape recorder, cassette player at that time, in my pocket, recording all this. That I did discuss wages and benefits with these guys, and we were getting underpaid. Everything was kosher.
Hey, yo, fam, you know we're supposed to be getting $3 more in this county?
And it's not just,
you ain't know?
It's not even all, sometimes it's not even that. I remember there was a job, and even union members don't know that, some of their rights. I was on a job, yes, sir.
Did anybody ever like join you?
Yes. I probably, when, from that contractor, I probably had stripped about what we call stripping, where we take guys in, about 7 guys from that contract. He eventually went out of business, and one of our contractors bought the building he was in, and he calls me and he says, "You got to come up here." And I went up there, and he gave me, I bet, 10 boxes of paperwork. And that guy, every attorney thing that guy had said with his attorney about me was in that box. All of the litigation I'd filed. I mean, I hammered this guy for years. And I mean, it was funny.
Right?
That's gangster. Yeah, that's gangster.
Can I fire this son of a bitch?
That is
The attorney would send it back. "No, you can't. He hasn't done nothing to get fired about. He's met your qualifications for employment. You better work." or you're gonna pay them.
So, go ahead.
No, that's right.
So, I got a question as far as the whole back pay, unfair,
Labor practice.
Yeah, so if I do apply for a job and I don't get it, and then some guy who maybe wasn't as qualified gets it, but then he gets fired, does that still count?
It would depend on how long the guy keeps the applications and stuff.
Let's say if it was like 3 days, he worked, that other guy worked like 3 days.
And then got smoked.
And then, yeah, he got canned.
Well, if you knew about it,
Mm-hmm.
if he was less qualified, you would go ahead and file the complaint at that point.
Okay.
So,
But what if he was more qualified and that was still the case? Like he came in.
if he's more qualified, then they didn't commit any unfair labor practice.
Okay.
But now there is.
Well, and I'm getting somewhere else with this.
Okay.
Like, what if, you knew about that firing and then you hired some guy that was just, that he liked more, but wasn't as qualified?
Well,
Then you, after the first guy.
well, there's things that you got to do. You just don't salt people or do that. You have to. The organizer has to do some homework first.
Okay.
Okay, members can't just do this on their own because you can't work non-union and union without permission of the union, at least an IBEW.
That's
So what we, as an organizer, as soon as I heard word that somebody was hiring, if I seen an ad in the paper, then I would get somebody to go there. First, I'd check to see if I knew anybody there, non-union, trying to get in, and they would let me know what's going on. So you got to do some homework. So, okay, so I find Kaboom Electric's hiring. I print out their newspaper ad or their Indeed.com ad or temporary, whatever. Then what I do, I have Mr. Dow, Mr. Reynolds go apply for that job, full boat. I put a union shirt on you. I put a union hat on you, everything.
Oh, you make it known silently.
Right. I make sure that he knows. Okay, you guys put in your applications. Right behind you two, I've got 2 more guys, no union stuff on, and they make up every line. I used to have a list of contractors from other states that went out of business.
Mm-hmm.
You can lie about that. You cannot lie about your qualifications, but you can lie about who you work for.
Mm.
If I say, well, I work for Kaboom Electric in Illinois, okay, that's fine. But do you have the experience that you have? Okay, so what I do, I make sure them guys didn't show as much experience when they hire them. Well, then they've committed an unfair labor practice because they knew you were union. I had a deposition from a truck driver that worked for a contractor where his sole job, when somebody pulled up out front, was to go out the back door, sneak around the side of the building, and check for any bumper stickers that said union or anything on the guy's toolbox, or if he's seen anything in the cab of the truck.
Wow.
That was his whole job.
Wow.
Stuff. And they were just trying to filter out non-union or union people. But, in this instance of this company, another one down the road here, he was doing that and he was hiring. He wouldn't hire us. He ended up paying us $63,000 in back pay to 4 people.
Mm.
We never lifted a tool.
Mm.
And the biggest thing was that $150 an hour journeyman that you put on their payroll. And that's in the form of an attorney.
Mm.
Because we all know attorneys aren't productive, right? I mean, they're just.
They look at a bunch of papers and know some law.
Right. And then say,
Like to
okay,
argue.
here's an hour, that's $175. So you put, not only is this guy paying back pay, but he's also paying an attorney. And what that does, if you look at it.
Some attorneys $300 an hour.
Right, exactly. And what you're doing when you do that is, here's your union wages, Here's your non-union, right? Okay, so as you start getting that non-productive expenses on him in the form of an attorney and back wages, you're floating this up, right? And this, pretty soon, you're at a level playing field. It's costing him just as much as it costs you. So it levels out the playing field of contractors coming in lowballing and getting work. Let's take about a 10-minute break here. Get something to drink. Pardon?
I had to call my high school to get my friends.
Go right ahead.
I hate doing this. It's a pain in the butt. It's like pulling teeth. Trying to get any water out on my reference system, trying to apply the iron workers too.
That's a good old stuff there for us. Two good player had put on 1 minute.
Get back to break, we'll start on the other section.
So I have a question. What was the name of the communication that you had with each other? I meant to ask you at the time. If you and another were
Concerted activity.
concerted activity.
Hello, Tammy. My name is Samuel, N-I-K.
Grady, I got a question.
Yes.
Now, what time are we doing lunch?
11:30, 12.
11:30 to 12?
Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna try to run over to Hooters and get some free wings.
Free wings?
For me?
Oh, for you?
Yeah.
Military?
Not for you.
That ain't fun. You don't talk about the free wings. Talk about
Hey, I did the crab. I gotta do the time.
put in some work in your free wings.
Shoot, yeah. I ain't almost get blown up for nothing.
What'd you say?
I wanted my free pancakes this morning. Shit.
You know, kind of first. No.
Well, I have got free pancakes from 7 to 7.
So you in school, college?
Who, me?
Yeah.
No.
Get free education, being in the military.
It's relative.
I mean, it ain't free in the sense of, you know what I'm saying? But
I don't know, maybe I had a misunderstanding. I thought it was.
nah, it ain't no misunderstanding.
It's monetarily kind of free, but
Yeah.
you pay with your ass.
Yeah.
You said you pay with your ass.
Yep. You get it
Basically.
shot off or shot at.
Yeah.
Your military ex too? Oh, okay.
No.
You missed that boat?
Yeah, I listened just as the Vietnam War ended, and then they politely told me, we got plenty of people, we don't need you.
Wow, that's interesting.
Reserved for 5 years.
Oh, yeah. Good time, man. You get drafted or just
I enlisted out of high school. And like I said, it ended, and they did get
My dad had like abs and that, like trying to get you look at it, you know.
and what is that? You're the only son or something like that. You're down to the only son.
Yeah, if you the only child.
What the fuck is
If you were the only son or the last son, like if always, like let's say your three brothers joined and they were already in, you could join, but you were not getting deployed, like you weren't going to war. And like, you ever seen Saving Private Ryan?
Probably has been a long time ago.
With Tom Hanks, where the whole movie they went out looking for this kid because his two brothers had fucking died in, like, you know, France or whatever in the other part of the war, and it ended up being like the wrong person.
No, I gotta check that out.
Yeah.
I remember it's been so long ago.
Yeah, like that's kind of the premise of it. That's you know, basically what it is.
So
So
the time that movie was made, it was apparently the most realistic war movie at the time.
Yeah.
Like people apparently were getting PTSD set off from watching it.
so
Wow, that's big.
so me and my younger brother, we were in Afghanistan at the same time.
Wow, that's deep. That's deep.
But my older brother, he never enlisted. So like, we could die and it didn't
Right,
you know.
Yeah, they go back.
But if all three of us just so happened to be over here, one of us, you know, whoever was supposed to go last
Shalom, Yashimai, Allah,
wouldn't have gone.
Abba,
That wouldn't have been like that. It
Habla,
would have been whoever
Yahweh,
went
Shamar,
was supposed to go last.
Nile, Asar,
Like we all,
Abba,
I got there in
Abba,
December 2011.
Shalom,
We
Yashimai,
got there
Allah.
like April 2012.
Okay.
You know, so
How much did y'all days?
we all 2 years apart.
Oh, okay.
So
He still enlisted too?
nah, he got out earlier this year.
This one person.
So
You gotta give your time in the car.
yeah, I got 4.5 years left. Like, why wouldn't I?
Of course, I was
They
saying.
get my little 20 years. They do some shit I don't want, I don't like. I'm be like, all right, yeah, I'm out of here. I'm out of here.
They got my cousin stationed down in Florida.
What ain't that?
Oh, you got something to plug, so I guess at that point you just, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And to win it, huh? Right. My water nasty up that fall.
Good water.
next sections are the government matters. I think it's like page 10 to 17 or something like that. If you just kind of skim through that, so we can discuss it, and then we can get back to the other parts if that's what you want to do.
What page you said?
10 through 15.
It's section 2.
Section 2, okay. Got it.
I'm not big on making you guys read all that in class. Government matters.
Expansion of contracts. Awesome.
All right, everybody just had a chance to glance through that section too.
Yeah.
Go through that a little bit. Okay, titled Government Matters. What do you think that means?
Structure matters.
Yeah.
Having a say in the government matters to keep it strong.
Right. Okay. During the Great Depression, the U.S. economy, building and construction ground to a halt. In your reading, you'll see that nothing was being built. So the trade stopped, basically. 80% of the work stopped. So you had the soup kitchens. You had a lot of people filing for bankruptcy, people killing themselves, you know. Bad time. I mean, you know, it was a time in America that could have went either way as far as the government of this country. The communist crime was a big factor in those periods that a lot of people turned to it. I think everybody probably knows, you know, that's where Al Capone got big in Chicago by opening food kitchens and soup kitchens for the unemployed people of Chicago. The hell, they loved them. You know, everybody knows how fierce he was. I mean, they put a lot of people in the ground, but a lot of people liked him because he took care of what they felt like was the average person in Chicago. So something had to be done. So what happened with the New Deal? What happened with that as far as we elected the new president? Franklin Delano Roosevelt, FDR, started the New Deal.
I saw that.
And what's the New Deal? It put people to work on infrastructure jobs in America.
Increased government spending as a way to re-employ the nation's workforce, made the government a prime factor in economic affairs.
Okay, so now in today's politics, what do we just have passed? It's the big
new
infrastructure bill. What's that going to do? It's going to put people to work in this country. And the thing about it, just like when we passed that law, can you imagine, say, you know, if, where's it, 1931 Davis-Bacon Act. Okay, so now all this work has to be at Davis-Bacon rates. If it wasn't at this time, say, like back then, if you had 80% of people were out of work, right? Contractors could get people to work for pennies on the dollar. So who's going to benefit from that would be the contractors, not the people. The Davis-Bacon Act on this work made sure that everybody who worked on those jobs was assured a fair wage and benefits. And that's what prevailing wage does. It brings up the level of the workers' wages and benefits to what the area has. Now there's states that has done away with their prevailing wage. And like Kentucky did, and what they found, first of all, a lot of the non-union guys who worked on them jobs came to the union because they found out, well, hell, this guy kept my wages by $10 an hour as soon as he did away with prevailing wage. My standard of living is on this, so the only place I can get that now is with the union.
Okay.
So that's what the Davis-Bacon and these wage acts did for the New Deal. It brought the country out of a depression. Policymakers reinvigorated the labor movement by protecting workers' rights to organize unions, collective bargaining, and by endorsing other labor rights, including the 8-hour day, workers' compensation, and Social Security. That's what labor did. You know, when a lot of people say, well, we don't need a union anymore. Well, who got you the 8-hour workday? Organized labor. Who got your workers' compensation? Organized labor. Who got Social Security? Organized labor. Now, people think that contractors and employers just gave this. No, that was a battle. That was a battle to get this stuff. It's still a battle to get this stuff. So don't be fooled by politicians who lie, if you can imagine that. Okay, so the federal government, by the New Deal, sought to generate economic demand by putting thousands of Americans to work on public works projects like the Hoover Dam. So the lesson for the building trades leaders was that government matters, so they had to increase their level of political engagement without voting with engagement regarding voting and lobbying. Now, in my 41 years, in my union meetings downstairs, you know, we've had guys, you know, bitch and complain, well, why are you spending money? I don't want that guy. I don't believe what he's for abortion rights, or he's against gun rights. The thing is, none of that stuff matters if you're the 80% of people who's unemployed. You might want to keep that shell and that gun to put yourself out of your misery. You know, that's a sad part about this country, is there's no safety net anymore for people. And the thing that the government should be doing is what we pay them to do, and that's to take care of us.
Yeah.
That's why we pay taxes. I don't pay taxes for them to go jetting off to Europe. Oh, I'm going to visit a sister city. Bullshit. You're going there for a vacation. You know, I wasn't born yesterday.
Did anybody go to Mexico?
Right. So, you know, that's why we get into politics. Do we want to be? It's like yesterday. And I had to go home and take a shower afterwards. But I went to Columbus to a Republican House of Representatives state caucus. Shake hands, give them money. Did I like it? No. Because I don't like some of the stuff that they stand for their social issues. But they are helping us in other issues like keeping prevailing wage, keeping right to work down. It's a necessary evil that we have to do. I like that some of our members hate it. I don't like it. But if we don't do it, and we have to decide both sides, you know, Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever, we have to work with those people for working people. Because that's what we are. We are working people. We're no better, no worse. That's all we do. We go to work, we provide for our families, we come home, and that's what we want to do. Spend time with our families, have a decent wage, have decent retirement, a decent house, a family, a car. We're not asking for Wall Street or anything. We just want what we're entitled to as the American worker, because the one thing you have to understand, there ain't none of them SOBs that would have anything without us.
Right.
Period. We are the ones that do it. We are the ones that break our back. You put 40 years in this trade, and I can tell you right now, your knees are shot, your shoulders are shot, your back's shot, your hips shot. I'd do it all again because I love to work. I love to be able to drive down the road, and my kids used to get so sick of hearing it. I did the lights in that bill. We know, Dad. We know. You know, they got to that point. We know. You told us 1,000 times. But it's an air of proud of something you've accomplished. Yes, sir.
Time go past and you don't know it, and they drive past and they say, My Abba did those lights. My Abba did that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, that's just think of something. It's just like being proud of your kids or your house or whatever. You accomplished that. And that's really all we want in our lives. I don't want to be a millionaire. Hell, they got their headaches too. Yeah, can I spend the money? Yeah, probably. But the main thing
You
is
have millionaire problems.
right. We have even more than that.
Even more than that.
Okay. Okay, so voting and lobbying. And we get down to, like I said, we've had arguments downstairs, on the floor of meetings, everything from, you're SOB for this and SOB for that. And, politics is an ugly thing, but it's a necessity. Just think about this. Who sets your wages? Does the government set wages? Huh?
To an extent. They set minimum wage, but.
Okay.
The federal government.
Little $9.
Actually, it's like.
Well, the federal.
Whatever.
Okay, so let's think about that. How, people say, we shouldn't be involved in politics, right? Every one of you are involved in politics, whether you know it or not. When you get up in the morning, what do? You turn on the lights.
Hop about the bed, get my sweater.
Okay, you turn lights on, right? Okay, who regulates lights?
The government.
Your power,
And like,
PUCO, Public Utilities Commission, right? PUCO. Who appoints them? Oh, that's right, the government, the state governor, that group, right? Okay, then you go out and you hop in your car, right?
yes.
Okay, yeah, what we got there? We got gas, right? You got the roads, right? You got safety, right? Who does all that? Who regulates the gas industry as far as what they have to meet, certain criteria for smog and all that? Environmental, right? Who does the roads? You have to have a certain width of the road, right? Right?
The DOT, Department of Transportation.
Yep. And how about the safety on the cars and vehicles? National Transportation Safety Administration, right? So people are involved in it, no matter what they say. They say, no, I don't get into politics. Yes, you do. If you're a walking, talking human being,
You walk on the sidewalk, you in politics.
you're into politics. And it's just a matter of, do you want to say in it or not say it?
Yeah.
That's the big thing. Any other way that you can think that we're involved in it?
I think that's it.
You can't do it?
Well, I mean, like, unless you talking about going to the grocery store and buying food and how much the prices are.
And what's that 1 3-letter word?
Tax.
Tax.
Right?
That's why we on
Well,
we're on Wall
we have
Street
to
on
pay
the
that, don't we?
What they call that thing?
Taxes. We got that.
What's that on Wall Street? Them numbers? Oh, when they
Pardon?
watch it. The stock. We're on the stock. We are the stock.
Yeah, who controls all that? How about, what is it, the prime rate? Who sets that? Oh, that's right, that's government. Ain't it?
Yeah, somebody who don't think.
Prime rate. Got all that. Minimum wage. All right, Davis-Bacon, who sets that? The government does, right?
FMLA.
Hey, did you have to talk to your captain for what you made an hour?
No.
So who said that?
Man,
Right?
the government.
The government. Here they are again, Everybody sees, you know,
Government.
people say, well, we don't want big government. We want them out of things.
Yo.
Well, you're there. You know, you're in all of this stuff.
Like,
So-
I know how much I'm gonna make when I get promoted now. You
Right.
know? Like,
Because
there's a public pay chart.
Right. See, and that's the thing, and that's one of the things I used to tell the non-union guys. I said, you know, I'd hand them a contract and say, everything you make in there is in black and white.
That's how it is with our orders. Like, look at our orders, and then like the pay will be on the backside way at the bottom, and it'll be like, this is how much you should be getting paid
Right.
during this time.
Right, and
So,
it's,
yeah.
you know, ahead. And then I used to tell the non-union guys, is it in black and white what he pays you? Well, no, they'll do what he's gonna make. I said, so he can take it away, right?
Yeah, they
When you give it, he can take it away, right? That's, well, yeah, I guess.
Didn't think about it like that.
I said, you know, he belongs to a union. I said, my boss don't belong to a union. I said, sure he does. I said, oh, you're fucking, almost dropped that bomb there.
We don't give a shit.
Yeah,
He said,
You're fine.
they'd say, oh, you're full of shit. I said, no, let me tell you something. Okay, like in this area, you have the ABC, Associated Builders and Contractors. Okay, so like this is the ABC. And what is the ABC? It's a contractor association. What did they do? Oh, I know. They lobby and voting for employers. Huh? What we did? What's that? Oh, voting
Voting and
for
lobby.
for workers. Huh? Let's see. What else? Oh, they pay dues to belong to that. Huh?
They do.
That's what we do too, don't it? Okay, so we pay dues. And what else do they do? They hold elections and elect officers. Huh. That's the same thing the unions do. That's
Well, how about that?
that's fucked up, ain't it?
What a coincidence.
Huh. But they tell you, you don't need somebody to look over for you because, hey guys, we're family. Yeah, right. And like I said, if I had a family like that, they sure don't come over. You know? So you got all these groups that's doing the same thing, but yet they'll say, oh God, we don't want that union. You don't need a third party. You can come talk to me anytime, pal. Well, in my experience, that's a one-way conversation there. So that's why politics is so important. As ugly as it is, you know, what this country suffered under, and I don't care really how party or how people feel, but the last 4 years that we suffered through was an abomination of democracy, in my opinion. Workers were attacked. You had collective bargaining rights pulled from workers on the federal government by the original Orange Man. You had attacks on Davis-Bacon. You had attack on voting rights. There's still voting rights. And people say, well, we don't need politics. We need politics. It's a necessary evil if we want a country that is free, period. And people can say what they want about the unions being corrupt. I guarantee you, for every corrupt union that you see or hear about, I can list probably 10 politicians or 10 other public officials, whether it be the guy who steals money from the Little League softball thing up to the county commissioner or the federal government or the Speaker of the House taking bribes. That's just one of those things. That's human nature. But a union that's run the way a union is supposed to be is the most perfect thing for a working person. That's why we do it. You know, people talk about, well, you got all the crime and gangs. Why do people join gangs?
Be a part of.
For brotherhood and
Yeah,
mutual
part of.
protection.
Protection.
And aid. That's what a union is there for. Mutual protection and aid, period. And if people had a chance of making decent wages and
Yeah.
benefits, they wouldn't need this stuff.
wouldn't
They
even be the
wouldn't
game.
need to do the crime. They wouldn't need this.
They wouldn't feel that obligation to.
It's like I told a couple of classes ago, and it's really sad. What leaders for our country have we lost because we'll never know because they got killed? You know, who was the next JFK? Who was the next Martin Luther King? You know, where are all these people? Why? We need young people. We need to invest in the young people and build this country back up to what it can be. Period.
Thanks for coming in. That's love. Like, that's love.
And, you know, that's the thing is, we were there once,
Yeah.
and we let it slip away. And it's all the big. You know, one of the biggest things right now that you can look at, if you really want to get pissed off, really pissed, drive through the neighborhood of Dayton. You can still see the structure of the old houses.
Oh, yeah.
All right, of what manufacturing built in the city, the NCRs, and the Daco, and all them places. Drive
NIPCO,
through.
Remember that?
Yep, NIPCO.
My
We
grandpa
had,
used to work there.
what, 5 Fortune 500 headquarters here in Dayton,
Yeah.
downtown.
Me,
Drive through that,
NCR,
Dacoa,
who?
Dacoa.
Those are the only two that I know.
Oh.
That I remember.
That goes, that DAYCO, was that spelled
Yes.
like that?
And,
Okay, well, I remember Daco.
Meade, NCR,
Standard register.
Standard Register.
Yes, Center Register.
But anyway, if you really
Mayo.
think about it, go through there, and look through that, and then pull up on the internet pictures of the East Coast and the West Coast of all them fucking ships sitting out there with shipped from overseas to here.
Mm-hmm.
That is why our neighborhoods look that way. It wasn't that they couldn't make money here, it's they couldn't make enough. That's a whole issue. It's, you know, that always amazed me that they want to talk about national defense. Well, okay, we can't even put a chip in a car right now because they're made elsewhere. So you got
That's
thousands
scary.
and thousands of vehicles sitting in lots waiting for these chips to be shipped.
That's scary to me.
Yeah, I mean, what the hell? We can't do that. We don't have the technology to do that.
We trust,
They've turned us into a retail and service society.
wow.
You know, and now they're crying, you know, well, we can't get people at our restaurant. Well, that's really not a way to make a living unless you're the owner. They might make it. But, you know, used to be if you worked at Standard Register, NCR, you made a good living.
Dayton Tire.
Dayton Tire, that's another one, yeah.
Firestone.
I remember when I was a
We
kid.
had 7 General Motors plants here.
Yeah. I remember when I was a kid, because I stayed in Dayton where Dayton Tire was. Like, and the building had been long gone, but you could still smell tires. You could still smell like fresh tires out there. That was crazy.
Yeah, I was going to UD. I remember when that one NCR building burnt. It was like, man, what a sad point of Dayton history, that something that put so many people to work. And now it's just sitting going up in flames.
Yeah.
Okay, well, so where are we at now? Okay, so in that reading, you're going to find out some other things. One is about the registered apprenticeship program.
All right.
And they started in 1911. Okay. And it expanded following World War II by the Fitzgerald Act. And see, that's something a lot of people didn't understand in this last administration. They basically tried to gut the apprenticeship program. And they were going to make it easier for like Joe Blow window manufacturer over here with 3 people.
Kaboom Electric.
He could start an apprenticeship.
Boom Electric.
Yeah, Kaboom Electric. So that was something that, you know, a lot of people didn't realize, but we really fought that. And we did have lobbying on both sides of the aisle, got that defeated. But what I was going to do is going to take qualifications and standards away from programs that have been there since 1937, 1911, and basically got them. You know, so we were happy to get that defeated. Okay, so let's see. The Fitzgerald Act provided uniform standards for registered apprenticeship, protect the rights of apprentices, and encourage relations between apprentice employers and state agencies. And then you'll read in there about, you know, what the benefits of apprenticeship are. We have a document here for you.
Benefits of apprenticeship. Yes. So how does the growth process of apprenticeship work? By hands-on time experience?
The way ours works, and different ones are different. You go to work during the day and you work or come to school at night. And you get, I think it's, don't quote me on this. I think it's like 150 hours classroom training.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think it's like 15 or 1,600 hours of on-the-job training. One goes with the other. But this is just kind of why union apprenticeships are, like the electricians, our average graduation for a 5-year apprenticeship is over 90% of the people. The non-union sector is anywhere from 28 to 30%. And as a former non-union apprentice, it was a crock of shit. You paid for your schooling. The only thing you paid, like for electrical, was your books